At exactly the moment the question was asked, the room felt lighter than people expected. No dramatic pause, no nervous laugh, just a quiet shift in the air, the kind that happens when someone decides not to perform. Everyone thought this would be another polished answer, another safe sentence designed to pass quickly and be forgotten just as fast. After all, this was a top celebrity in his late 20s, someone the public has long imagined inside carefully edited future plans. A relationship, a wedding, a timeline. But instead of leaning into expectation, he stepped away from it. His words were simple, almost blunt, and that was precisely why they landed so hard. He said he was too busy. He said marriage felt far away. Not because of uncertainty, not because of fear, but because his life, as it is now, leaves no space to pretend. In that instant, curiosity turned into tension. People stopped scrolling. They didn't lean forward because of romance. They leaned forward because they sensed honesty. The kind that doesn't announce itself, doesn't decorate the truth, and doesn't try to be liked. The kind that sounds uncomfortably familiar. What followed was not a confession, but something rarer. It was an explanation that didn't ask for sympathy and didn't try to soften its edges. He spoke about distance, not between people, but between the version of himself the world sees and the version that exists when the cameras are gone. He explained that public life requires constant adjustment, constant alertness, constant self-editing. That even moments meant to feel casual carry weight. Even silence is observed. And when someone lives like that for long enough, certain questions stop feeling romantic and start feeling practical. Not because love loses meaning, but because energy does. There was no attempt to dramatize his schedule, yet the picture formed on its own. Days measured by locations rather than hours. Nights shortened by preparation for the next morning. Movement without pause. He described a life where momentum replaces reflection, where stopping feels unfamiliar, almost unsafe. In that rhythm, the idea of planning a future built on emotional availability doesn't disappear, but it recedes. It waits, not rejected, just postponed. What surprised many people was not what he said, but how calm he was saying it. There was no frustration in his voice, no resistance, only clarity. He acknowledged that his profession creates a distance from ordinary experiences. That public spaces are rarely neutral, that relaxation becomes a skill rather than a state, and that authenticity, the kind people speak about casually, is harder to access when every appearance carries expectation. This wasn't framed as a complaint. It was framed as reality. As the clip spread, the conversation shifted almost immediately. People stopped debating his personal choices and began reflecting on their own. Office workers recognized the same pattern in different clothing. The feeling of being present but not fully there, of performing competence all day and saving silence for the evening. The sense that relationships, no matter how meaningful, require a version of yourself that work has already exhausted. The difference, of course, is scale. But the core experience felt shared. Then he spoke about what brings him back to himself. Not comfort, not luxury, but focus. Activities that demand attention and offer no space for distraction. Physical effort. Risk measured by control rather than chaos. Environments where status dissolves and skill speaks quietly. In those moments, he explained, identity stops fragmenting. There is no need to manage impressions, no need to anticipate reactions, just movement, breath, and trust in the process. That detail mattered more than it seemed, because it reframed the narrative. This was not a story about avoidance or emotional distance. It was a story about preservation, about choosing spaces that restore rather than deplete, about recognizing that before someone can share stability with another person, they must be able to access it alone. The way he spoke suggested not loneliness, but balance, not withdrawal, but intention. Some criticized him for sounding detached, others accused him of being too rational. But many more heard something else entirely. They heard someone refusing to sell reassurance he couldn't guarantee. Someone unwilling to promise a future version of himself that doesn't yet exist. In a culture that rewards projection and performance, restraint can sound radical. And that restraint, ironically, made his words resonate more deeply. The most striking part was not what he postponed, but what he prioritized. Responsibility before romance, presence before planning, honesty before expectation. He didn't dismiss the idea of love. He simply declined to treat it as a milestone to be achieved on schedule. Instead, he framed it as something that deserves fullness rather than compromise. As the conversation continued online, people began sharing their own versions of the same feeling. The pressure to align life events with age, the guilt of choosing work without calling it ambition, the quiet relief of hearing someone publicly admit that timing matters, that readiness is not a moral quality but a practical one. What made this moment linger was its absence of spectacle. There was no controversy to resolve, no reveal to analyze, just a calm refusal to narrate life according to expectation. And in that refusal, many viewers found permission to slow down, to prioritize stability over symbolism, to accept that life unfolds unevenly and that not all meaningful choices announce themselves loudly. By the time the conversation faded from headlines, something else remained. A subtle shift in how people spoke about their own pace. A recognition that clarity does not require explanation, and that sometimes the most impactful statements are the ones that do not try to inspire, but simply tell the truth as it stands. If stories like this resonate with you, if you value conversations that look beyond headlines and explore the human side beneath public images, we invite you to stay with us. At Star Watch Now, we focus on real moments, quiet shifts, and the stories that reveal more by saying less. Thank you for listening, for reflecting, and for giving your time to narratives that value honesty over noise. If you'd like to continue these conversations with us, consider subscribing to the channel and following our future uploads. Your support allows us to keep telling stories that move at a human pace, and we're grateful to have you here.